Last raid here, I cleared 13 out of 13 heroic on a Blood DK as a main tank that was relegated to only wear cloth gear. And with Firelands being released in its pre-nerf state, the question became, could we do it again? Welcome to the continued adventures of Clothyani. This started as a project last summer as a way to have some fun and give a bit of a display of the disparity in tank balance. The fact that Blood DK was a step above the rest was very clear, and with Protection Warriors boasting what anecdotally seems like a surprisingly high 3% participation rate compared to 59% of Blood DKs, I wanted to find out just how stupid we could get while still pulling off what some of the less represented tanks struggled to do, and thus the cloth-only Blood DK was born. Going into tier 11, we had a huge advantage gear-wise as we went into the raid after the Inferno Dungeon Protocol was released and thus had access to very good raid gear before stepping foot in the raid. This time around, however, we'd have to gear the old-fashioned way. We started off by finishing all of our possible gearing we could through the Inferno system, including gambling for some cloth pieces with Mastery and Haste. While I'm very limited in what I can pick up from the Valor vendor due to the cloth restrictions, we still managed to pick up a ring, bracers, and relic. The natural next step was to drop around 25,000 gold to pick up crafted gloves and boots, and with engineering still not leveled up, we had to go back to the auction house to level that, as not having natural boots on fight like Ragnaros just wasn't going to cut it. Oh man, I've spent way too much money on this character. Speaking of engineering, not wearing plate gear presented some challenges which we did not foresee. Now we're finally gonna get some strength on this Clothyani. Wait, no! 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 Oh no! Since we had more intellect rather than strength due to our gearing choices, Sign-Up Springs would give us intellect rather than strength, effectively making the Tinker useless. So we went with the haste option for Wrath of Lich King and called it a day. At this point, there was really nothing to be done except head into raid to start gearing. Already week 1 of Firelands, I decided to put together a pug to head into raid in order to clear full normal plus Rylith on heroic in order to try to get some gear to make the eventual 7 out of 7 heroic run just a little bit easier. The main difficulty was honestly raid leading without proper knowledge of the normal mode mechanics. But we pulled through just fine, even securing a few rank 1 healing logs due to our outrageous mastery levels, along with our healing scaling with increased damage taken due to us almost having no armor. We ended up losing every roll on every item that we could use, but there were quite few of them to begin with. The silver lining was that we could at least pick up the 378 item level cloak from reaching friendly with Adventures of Hydro. At this point, Clothyani took a little bit of a vacation. With Firelands in full swing and multiple guild raids happening every week, it was just a little bit too much to keep up the effort to blast with Clothyani as well. Then comes Christmas time. The rank 7 in the World Guild that I had recently just joined took a 2-week break, and thus it was the perfect time to put some effort into gearing our cloth-only DK. Of course, that 2-week break ended up turning into a permanent break, but more on that another time. We put together a full group of people aiming to clear at least 4 out of 7 heroic. The fact that people have faith enough to join these runs amazes me, or they just don't bother to read the text in the advertisement. But either way, they end up getting what they were promised. We got down Rylith, Ellis Resort, Shannox, and Majordomo on heroic while clearing the rest on normal. Did we get any loot, however? No, we certainly did not. A viewer over on Twitch named Arctic must have seen enough from that raid to be convinced to bring Clothyani into his regular run with his friends. Their second tank was away for the week, and thus they needed me to come in and fill that role. Of course, the whole goal of the challenge is for me to main tank the full raid, and Arctic and his friends gave me the go-ahead to do just that. So we log off, wait a week full of anticipation, and log in on the Sunday to get to work. We started our journey by going to Bethelak. Of course, we'd be going upstairs to tank the boss during phase 1, and we were accompanied by a Resto Shaman and 2 DPSers. We started doing just fine, even though the incoming damage feels a little spiky. The problem was, however, that we blew through most of our defensive cooldowns in the first upstairs phase. And as we moved down for smaller devastation, our Resto Shaman died to not getting down quickly enough. That put him a bit on the back foot for the rest of the encounter as he got rasped with low mana and never ended up getting fully rebuffed. We managed the rest of phase 1 doing just fine, but as we get down into phase 2, I end up dying when the boss was at 8% HP since our Resto Shaman was totally due to that early death. So the offline takes over for the last bit and we kill the boss. We end up getting our first upgrade from Bethelak with a huge 391 chests with haste and mastery. Exactly what we needed to make the rest of the journey slightly smoother. Next we go Electrosaur, and we played a bit safe by having one tank on each bird. Doing one bird solo was certainly no big deal, but I could see solo tanking them being quite risky since I don't have any strength of any of my cloth pieces, making the damage quite low and would probably struggle to kill them both before the firestorm. We ended up killing the boss quite easily and then moving on to Rhyolith. This is of course the easiest boss of the raid, so we solo tanked it and killed it with little to no trouble. Next was Shanox, and surprisingly we ended up having some difficulties with this fight. We did kill it in one go, but the off-tank ended up dying to Ripplim having high stacks, and then the Holy Paladin died, and then I ended up dying from having both Shanox and Ripplim on me while only having one healer alive. The boss was at 6% HP at this point, so the rest of the raid ended up kiting it until it died with only 2 ranged DPSers alive. Then came the big test. Solo tanking Balrog Heroic. A lot of runs will choose to have 3 healers for this fight unless they're super confident, but this raid did not. First pull, we ended up getting the boss to 8%, and things honestly went surprisingly well before I died to Devastation Blade, which is a bit ironic since me being in cloth gear does not affect how much damage I take during that phase. We keep bashing our heads against this boss for quite a while, and man oh man was it sweaty at times. I don't think my heart rate has been as high in quite a while. At one point, we even went down to 1 HP out of a max health pool of 1.1 million. But after around 10 wipes, it finally went down, and man was I relieved. Next we went to Major Domo, which I was very confident in knowing that I could handle just fine since we had killed it in the pug the week before. And as expected, it went down with little to no trouble. And then, at long last, we were standing in front of our final obstacle for the tier, Ragnaros. Tanking wise, we ended up running a quite safe progression strat of having 2 tanks taunt of each other at low stacks since we didn't have a feral druid in our raid, and tank swapping back and forth is the best way to optimize bench's uptime for both the tanks. Since there were a few people who had never done rag before and certain people in key positions that had never done certain aspect before, like the hunter being new to firefighting, we actually struggled quite a bit in this fight. We got to phase 4 quite a few times, but we never ended up killing it during that Sunday evening. The incoming damage was never really a problem, and I never died while tanking during the entire evening except when I sacrificed myself to get the boss into a root in phase 4 when the entire room was covered in fire. We called it a night, and Tuesday evening it was back to it. We go in on Tuesday, pull off the cleanest kill in history on the first pull of the evening, and thus conclude the Adventures of Clothyani the Fire Lord for this phase, unfortunately without Sulphurous. So remember the cloth chest that we got from Bethlak? That was the only upgrade we got in 3 weeks of running Firelands. So not only did we clear the entire raid only using cloth gear, but we were actually quite under gear from an item level perspective as well, rocking an item level of 375. So now we'll have to wait and see what adventures awaits Clothyani come Dragon Soul. Speaking of Dragon Soul, the PTR is just around the corner, and I'm looking to stream and release high quality guides for all bosses before the tier comes out. If that's something you'd be interested in, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube and follow over on Twitch. But that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.